Hey guys, what is up and welcome to my channel. It's a hardback life. My name is Jordan and today we're going to be talking about my June wrap-up and then my August TBR. At least what I plan on reading for sure in August. And you're probably thinking, wait Jordan, what about July? I will do my July wrap-up for my next video because there's 10 books and I was thinking about doing my July and June wrap-up together, but that's 14 books in all, and I didn't want to go crazy. But then again, I am going to be talking about a number of books for my August TBR. But I just wanted to group some stuff together and then put some other stuff to the side and do that next. But anyway, yeah, we're going to talk about my June wrap-up and then my August TBR. And then my next video, which should be posted the day after I post this one, will be my July TBR. No, my July wrap-up. I'm sorry. My July wrap-up. Alright, without further ado, you guys, let's get started. So like I said before, the month of June, I read 4 books. And I'm a little disappointed by that because I was supposed to read a bunch of books for Pride Month. And then also there were other books that I was planning on reading. But I just didn't have a lot of time in June. I was, I kind of did and I kind of didn't. I was on vacation in the middle of June from like June 9th to the 15th, or June 9th to the 17th, I should say. Yeah, from June 9th to the 15th I was in Florida, and then I was supposed to be at work the day of the 15th, but unfortunately on the 14th, when I was supposed to land in Arizona, because that's where I live, flights got delayed and eventually canceled because of rain and thunder. So unfortunately I missed my flight on the 14th to be back home and work the next day, and so I called my manager, I got coverage, and then yeah, and then obviously June just kind of got away from me, so that's how that worked out. But I still managed to read 4 books, and the first one I read was Volume 2 of Heartstopper. Heartstopper is a graphic novel series written by Alice Oseman. It's about 2 boys named Nick and Charlie who develop a beautiful friendship, and then it becomes something more along the way. And this series is so cute and lighthearted at times. It also does get dark. I want to warn you, there are trigger warnings. There's talk of self-harm and depression and identity and all that stuff. That's all in this graphic novel series. And it's very book talks about a lot of dark stuff, or at least gets darker throughout the graphic novels. And I wanted to reread the graphic novels. This is my second time reading them because Heartstopper Season 2 just was added to Netflix August 3rd. I've only seen the first 5 episodes because honestly I'm a little nervous, because when you watch something that you really enjoy watching, especially if it's a drama, you're nervous about what's going to happen next for your favorite characters, you know. If you're anything like me, I'll be in the middle of watching, like, say, one of my favorite shows, FBI. I'll pause it multiple times because I'm nervous for my favorite characters. And yeah, but this was the first book I read, and I need to finish Heartstopper Season 2. And yeah, but like I said, I've been rereading this graphic novel series to prepare for the season 2 addition to Netflix. And unfortunately, I did not finish or like the 4th volume, which is the most recent one, before the 2nd season started. I already know what happens though, so it wasn't a spoiler for me. But yeah, this is Heartstopper Volume 2. I recommend it. The thing I read in June was book 5 in the Wheel of Time series. This is Fires of Heaven. I'm not going to talk about this too much because I will do a Wheel of Time journey video. But I just want to say I did not enjoy like at least 65 to 70% of this book, because our main characters, a lot of them are stuck in situations or areas that I don't care about. Like 2 to 4 of our main characters, or at least 2 of our main characters, get themselves involved in a circus to lay low, and it's just boring. And then another one of our main characters is basically trying to get certain people on his side. And there's other stuff that happens. Oh, and I'll just say my favorite character in this whole entire series does not appear in this book. That's another thing that pissed me off. But yeah, so I did not enjoy Fires of Heaven until like the last 200 or so pages. That's what got me glued back into the series, because I almost DNF'd the series. But I don't want to DNF it just because I'm part of a read-along that is happening. Yeah, I should have mentioned that before, but Kate from the Literary Apothecary, you should go check out her channel. She's doing a read-along for the Wheel of Time series for a lot of first-time readers of the series, or people who've read the series already and want to reread it again. And Kate herself has not read the series before, so she's been on the Wheel of Time journey for the first time, like me. And we are currently, this is the 8th month of the year. We're currently on the Path of Daggers, which is book 8. We're reading 1 book a month, so yeah. And I'll talk more about this when I do my Wheel of Time journey. The 3rd book I read, believe it or not, was a cookbook. And that is Magnolia Table, a collection of recipes for gathering by Joanna Gaines. If you don't know who Joanna Gaines is, then you're living under a rock. She and her husband Chip Gaines came to prominence by renovating and designing houses. And they still continue to do that, but now they have their own network on TV called Magnolia Network. And I love that network because there's so many experts who teach you how to do certain things. And she also has developed a major passion for cooking over the last several years. I mean, she's got 5 kids, so the crazy thing is how she balances her her family life, and then just doing a lot of the things she does. But yeah, she's developed a passion for cooking, and she wanted to share that. She even has her own cooking show, which is really good. And this is just a book of her recipes and also just stories that she, just anecdotes, things that she talks about, like, in her family and her life, and just inspirations for these dishes. And I enjoyed it so much. And I'm definitely going to give a lot of these recipes a try, because, one, I need to learn how to cook better, because I'm not the greatest cook. I can cook basic stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. 5 stars. The last book I read for the month of June, and my favorite book that I've read in that month, and probably one of my favorites I read so far, is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. This is a YA kind of Asian-inspired dystopian, I'd say, in a way. Maybe not dystopian. It's a fantasy. Sorry, why did I say dystopian? It's a fantasy about two main characters, Laya and Elias. Laya is basically a slave, and one night, soldiers come to her home and they basically hurt her family. They, for one thing, take her brother and like for treason. They say he committed treason, and they take him as a prisoner. And they try to take her as well, but she runs. And her main goal is to find the resistance and ultimately free her brother. And our other main character, Elias, is a soldier in the Martial Empire, and he doesn't exactly like what they stand for. And so he's conflicted about either staying with them or deserting them. And he knows the punishment for deserting is death. And so he's just trying to come up with ways. Like, he's already concocted a plan of deserting. But he's also trying to remain normal and just not let them find out about his plan. And ultimately, he and Laya cross paths, and they end up having kind of the same goals in mind, at least somewhat, and they work together to do certain things. That's all I'm going to say. I love this book. 5 out of 5 stars. I definitely am going to read the next one this month because I didn't get to it in July. But this was An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. I definitely recommend this book. Alright, you guys, let's hop into the next section of this video, which is my August TBR. And I'm going to try and go through these fast because I don't want to be here for a long time. Okay. The first book that I'm going to talk about for August that I plan on reading is Daughter of the Blood by Anne Bishop. This is the first in the Black Jewels trilogy. Sorry, I had to think about what this was called. Basically, we have... Here, let me give you the synopsis. 700 years ago, a black widow witch saw an ancient prophecy come to life in her dazzling web of dreams and visions. Now the Dark Kingdom readies itself for the arrival of its queen, a witch who will wield more power than even the High Lord of Hell himself. But she is still young, still open to influence and corruption. And whoever controls the queen controls the darkness. 3 men, sworn enemies, know this, and they know the power that hides behind the blue eyes of an innocent girl. And so begins a ruthless game of politics and intrigue, magic and betrayal, in which the weapons are hate and love, and the prize could be terrible beyond imagining. Oh, that sounds crazy good. I have been meaning to read this for months because one of my friends who works at Barnes & Noble has gotten his fellow employees to read it because it's his favorite series, and he's been bugging me to read it. So here's my first attempt at reading this series, and I hope I enjoy it. Okay, the next book I'm going to talk about is, speaking of An Ember in the Ashes, A Torch Against the Night, which is book 2 in the Ember in the Ashes series. I can't wait to read it. I love the cover. It's blue. Each of the covers have a distinct color. The first one was red, second one's blue, third one's green, and the fourth one is purple. I feel like this is going to be like a huge favorite of mine. Just because it's blue, and blue is my favorite color, for those of you who do not know. The next book that I plan on reading for the month of August is Invoking the Blood by Callista Ninth. Now, I don't know too much about this, except that it's about vampires. And this is actually written by a local author in Arizona, where I live. And she's been at Barnes & Noble the last month multiple times to do book signings and stuff like that. And so I'm really excited because I definitely want to talk about this with her once I finish it. It's kind of, I'd say it's like a little smutty, I guess, from how she described it. And one of her favorite authors, by the way, is Anne Bishop. So I'm excited to talk about this, and I'm hopefully going to read this and then discuss some stuff with her, because I love discussing books, especially with authors, and she's local, so I'm very excited to be reading a book by a local author. Oh, and she signed it, you guys. Callista signed it, so I'm very excited to read it. It's a signed edition. Oh my god, I can't wait to read it. Okay, the next book that I have to get to is The Path of Daggers, which is book 8 in the Wheel of Time series. I read book 7 in July, and then I finished book 5 in June, and started book 6 and finished book 6 in July, which book 6 is called Lord of Chaos, and book 7 is called A Crown of Swords. And I will talk about those more in my July wrap-up. But this is the 8th book in the Wheel of Time series. I'm sure you've heard a lot about the Wheel of Time, so I'm not going to bore you with what it's about. Okay, this next book I've already started, and I need to finish it because I want to read more books within this series. This book is called Making Money by Terry Pratchett. This is one of the books in the Discworld series, and I love this book so far. It's a fantasy with comedy. Like, there's a lot of comedy involved within this fantasy series, and I love it. I can't help myself. It's cracking me up. And this is my first Terry Pratchett novel. I also have Guards somewhere over here, but I decided to start with Making Money because, well, I just decided to start with it. But yeah, and I'm enjoying it so far, so I can't wait to read Guards either. The next book I plan on reading is Heartstopper Volume 4. This is the darkest of the series because this one is where a lot of crazy things happen to our main characters. And I love this series, like I said, so I plan on finishing this one really quickly. It's a graphic novel, so I should finish it quickly. I just didn't quite get to it in July like I wanted, because obviously the second season was put on Netflix in beginning of August. I wanted to read this quickly before that, but like I said, didn't get to it. But and I don't need It doesn't matter though that I didn't get to it. I wasn't going to be spoiled because I've already read it before. And if there was some stuff that is included in the show via Volume 4, then yeah, like I said, it wouldn't have mattered because I've already read it. Oh, by the way, you guys, I've been really getting into romance novels and romance fantasy in particular. And that's been a real big change for me in the last few years. But, I'm enjoying it. And speaking of romance fantasy, this next book is a very popular one. And I caved, and so I'm going to read it now. From Blood and Ash by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is the first book in the From Blood and Ash series. There's also a spin-off called Of Flesh and Fire, which, if I enjoy this whole series, I will read that as soon as possible. But you never know. I could possibly not like it, but I think I will like this series. Because, if I like Sarah J. Maas, I think I will like Jennifer L. Armentrout. And I'm going to go into this blind, so yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This next book is a new release, and I need to seriously get ahead of the new releases that have been coming out this year, because I don't think I've read a single one, which is horrible. And that's going to change this month, though, because this next book I've been waiting for since it was announced, and that is House of Roots and Ruin. This is a sequel, I think, to A House of Salt and Sorrows, or it could be I don't know if it's a sequel to it or a sequel standalone. It probably is a sequel to it, but this is by Aaron A. Craig. The first one, House of Salt and Sorrows, was fantastic. It's a horror fantasy. And, oh man, the first one got super dark. But I loved it so much. The first one was basically a fairy tale inspired story about the 12 dancing princesses. And this book, I think in particular, is about one of the other sisters in the series. Oh my god, I will talk more about this when I get to it, but I loved of House of Salt and Sorrows, and this one is a special edition one because it has sprayed edges. It's just so beautiful too. Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't wait to read it. I think I'm going to get to it as soon as possible because I've been waiting for this book. This is House of Roots and Ruin by Aaron A. Craig. This next book I am going to talk about is a book I read last month, but I immediately picked it back up at the end of July and started reading it again because I enjoyed it that much. And that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. So this is a reread. And boy, oh boy, I'm loving it even more the second time. I had to read this for the Battle of the Bands readathon. And boy, I loved it so much. This is about a girl named Nora Stevens who goes on vacation with her sister Libby. And Nora is a agent for a publishing company, I believe. And she decides to take her sister upon the vacation offer, and they go spend 1 month or so in a small town. And it's basically like a romantic comedy because our main character meets someone at the beginning of the book who she does not find to her liking. Like, she doesn't like this person. And she ends up running into him in this small town multiple times. And he doesn't like her either. And obviously, a romance is supposed to blossom between them. And so far, the second read through, like I said, I'm loving it even more. This is Book Lovers by Emily Henry, and my first Emily Henry novel that I have read. So I can't wait to finish it again. It'll be done probably really quickly because I plan on getting it done within the next day or two again. Next book I'm going to talk about is a book I plan on doing a vlog for. And I haven't done a reading vlog in such a long time, so this will be like a new experience again. And that book I'm going to do a reading vlog for is A Little Life by Hannah Yanagihara. This is another book I was going to read in June for the LGBTQ plus representation. This is another book I was planning on reading for Pride Month because there are some characters who are in that community and I just didn't get to it. This is also an 800-page book, so yeah. But this book, it follows like 4 main characters and they go through some really traumatic stuff. Like, there are tons of trigger warnings. Like, if you go on any of the reviews, like, a lot of the people talk about several of the trigger warnings for this book. So, keep that in mind if you do read this. But this is A Little Life, and I do plan on doing a reading vlog for it. I'm just a little nervous because of other reading vlogs I've seen. People massively cry. So, yeah, here it goes. This next book that I plan on reading in August is a book that I've already read, but I plan on reading it again because the movie for this book is coming out this weekend on Amazon Prime, and I am so excited for it because I freaking loved this book when I read it last year. Red, White, and Royal Blue. This follows the president's son, the fictional president, not our current president. The fictional president of the White House son, and the royal prince, Alex and Henry. And okay, this is like an enemies to lovers trope that obviously happens in this book. Our 2 main characters don't like each other, and then they're forced to be in each other's presence because of a big event that is happening between their countries. And both Alex and Henry get into a little bit of an argument which causes a major scandal, and the 2 of them are forced to spend time together after this scandal and just obviously pretend that they like each other. And it develops more after that. And oh my god, this book is everything. It's funny. It's got a lot of serious notes as well. And there's also a lot of smut. So, I'm warning you, if you read this book, there is a lot of smut. But it's still a great book, and you learn a lot too, as well. So, this is one of my favorite books that I've ever read. So, I'm happy to be reading it again, especially with the movie coming out this weekend. This will be a high priority one. You heard that. A bunch of books just fell over. Oh well. Okay, and the last book that I'm going to talk about for my August TBR is a book that I have already started again for the third time. This is my third attempt at reading this book. And honestly, if I DNF it again, I am going to unhaul this series. Because they say third time's a charm, but if it's not a charm, it's gotta go. And that book is, this is gonna hurt some of y'all, Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. I've read this, or I've tried reading this twice physically, and oh my god, I was a little bored, especially with one perspective in particular. I'm not gonna share who until maybe a later video, but I was bored with this perspective and I just didn't want to read it. The first time I read it, I DNF'd it at 17%. The second time I read it, I DNF'd it at 20%. And so far, I think I'm getting closer to the 20% of where I left off the last time I read it. So here's hoping I get through it. I think I should, though, this time, because I'm reading it via audiobook and somewhat physically, but like I read it a lot while I'm on my way to work. And yeah, so far I've been mostly enjoying it. There are some moments, though, that still irritate me with this book, but I'm gonna push through it. Here's hoping that does work out this time when I can move on to book 2, because I bought book 2 thinking that I would love this one. But so far, it's okay. Alright, you guys, that was my June wrap-up and August TBR for you. And please say a prayer for me that I can get through Shadow of the Gods, because I so badly want to like this book series. Anyway, you guys, I shall see you in the next video. Bye.